Hello, everyone. My name is Hendrix Bodden with CY2, and I'm very pleased that you all have decided to spend an hour and a half with us today. I want to thank you for your time in advance. Um, as I said, my name is Hendrix Bodden. I represent CY2 here in the US. I'm also joined by my colleague, Ernst LaHaye. Ernst is one of the founders and managing directors of CY2 over in Europe, working out of our Netherlands office. Um, a couple of webinar meeting mechanic reminders. Everybody is in listen only mode, but we want to make this as interactive as possible. So I would encourage everyone, if you have questions, submit the question in the question area of the GoToWebinar client, and we'll interrupt the session as it makes sense to answer the questions. If we don't get to a question, and this is what we did with the most recent webinar, we'll actually answer the questions in writing and then post those along with the webinar recording on our website and also on the HUG website. And the posting would be later this week. We've scheduled an hour and a half, and the reason we did that, I mean, I know it's a big block of time, but we did a continuing education webinar a few weeks ago, and there were so many questions, and there seems to be quite a bit of interest in the PeopleSoft native Campus Solutions native continuing ed solution that we've developed, that we thought we'd give us a chance to pull back the covers and you guys to really see how this thing works. And so this is really going to be a very demo heavy session. I think the agenda is I'm going to do just a really brief company intro for those of you that don't know us. I'm going to turn it over to Ernst. Ernst's going to do like 2 or 3 PowerPoint slides to kind of set the see, buy, learn motif of our CE solution, and then he's going to dive right into to demo. So that's the agenda. Just let me do just a little bit of sales rah. CY2, arguably the top campus solutions consultancy in the EU, bringing our solutions now to the US market. I think we're one of the only, if not the only, Oracle consultancy that focuses only on campus solutions. And what that allows us to do is apply all that intellectual capital and understanding of campus to build out solutions. And hopefully you'll agree that the very cleverly designed continuing ed solution leverages native campus solutions, native people tools, and will allow an organization to get to continuing ed without having to implement a third party's solution, wherever that might be from. So campus solutions continues to be your single source of truth, and data record. We've got, I think the Oracle relationship is really important. We actually do development for Oracle. If you all have implemented, I forget what one of the more recent PUMs is. There's some AI skills, there's some chatbot skills in that PUM around campus solutions. We actually helped Oracle build those. And I mentioned the relationship because it's important, I think, for customers of ours, customers of Oracle's, to know that we're developing not in competition but in cooperation with the gaps that you all know may be in Oracle solutions. We try to help fill those. Ernst, I can't think of anything else to say. Maybe I should just turn it over to you.
Let's go. Good evening to you all. Hello and welcome. Hopefully we're going to show you some things that you haven't seen yet on the solution itself. And as Hendrix mentioned, I wanted to actually go very briefly over some of the key features of the application and the tool, just for those of you who actually haven't seen it already, and then dive into a creation of a product, a creation of an event, actually show you the relationship between our external demo website and form, actually apply, manage a student and its enrollment, and also have a look at the setup. So lots to do. So the whole idea of continuing education is, of course, to have a see, buy, learn experience, whereby we actually manage a transaction for a person in the most um, efficient way so that actually students can start learning as quickly as possible, and you as an administrator or as a organization offering education have as little as possible to do with that particular transaction and can enjoy the person learning as quickly as possible as well. Um, Intent is to have a student being able on a mobile phone or actually on his own laptop to be able to actually see what he wants to learn, buy what he wants to actually learn, and then start learning as quickly as possible after. That could be really minutes after in case of, for instance, a recorded video or a piece of education that's in learning materials database, or it could actually be a couple of days later. But in essence, the idea is see, buy, learn. To manage that, we actually have created a concept within Campus Solutions that is not as such native to Campus Solutions, but lives very well in collaboration with our, let's say, traditional educational models. And this model is the transaction model. And in the transaction model, the student purchases a product. And that purchase is the transaction in which we recognize that the person has bought a particular product. And with that person buying a product transaction, we are able to track everything we need around this particular enrollment of the student. We know who the person is, we know what he bought, we therefore know when he's going to actually study this particular piece of education that we are selling him. We have the ability through the transaction to identify who is going to be learning this particular piece of education that we're offering. We are also able through the transaction to identify who is going to pay for this particular transaction, because of course payment is a crucial part of continuing education, and we are supporting multiple ways of actually managing this particular payment piece. And as well as we are in Campus Solutions, we have the ability to actually also store the fact that the student is studying, and also can store results of that study so that we can also actually give the student at the end of his education a certificate, or just at least identify that he's actually done the course successfully and may want to come back for some other education afterwards. Um, the key capabilities of this tool are for sure a possibility to actually offer a flexible educational product offering. We can actually offer any type of education. We don't just have to offer courses. We can offer coaching. We can offer pre-recorded videos. We can offer actually access to an event. We can offer free of charge events as well. It doesn't have to be paid always, right? So in essence, in all, we are actually flexible in what we offer, and the idea behind it is that we are creating products instead of having to create official courses in the course catalog, but still can actually offer these pieces of education to people through different ways. Instant enrollment, as mentioned within the transaction model, we actually are enrolling somebody based on the fact that he actually is buying this product, and we can have some extra logic in there, and we can actually use some extra business processes if needed to identify that this person actually may enroll in this particular course. Could be relevant in the context of an accountancy program or any postgraduate program that you offer, or for instance something to do with nursing or other medical areas whereby there is real prerequisites for people to actually be able to enroll into a product that we have. But if we're talking about, for instance, a photography course or something else along those lines, we actually have instant enrollment in place. If necessary and possible, we actually have program completion requirements, which means that we are able to actually offer a course that leads to a certificate in the case that somebody actually gets a grade or a at least assessment which is positive. We keep track of what the student has done over time. So we keep track of everything that he's bought and studied with us. And we can actually track that at a very detailed level to ensure that we are aware of what he has done in the past, combine that if necessary with what he's done in his, let's say, traditional educational work. And with that, for instance, give somebody a certificate, or actually the other way around, have somebody move from continuing education into traditional education because he's actually done a few courses through continuing education and then decides to actually go after a real degree. We are managing financial information through Campus Solutions. We are managing this through the Student Financials module. So we're able to actually charge, we are able to actually do deposits, we're able to do waivers, we're able to do billing, we're able to actually send information over to the general ledger towards the finance system. We're able to actually manage payment online through a third-party payment providing model that you may already have in place for your Campus Solutions general anyway. So with all of those, we have a full swing financial module attached to this continuing education module in the context of student financials. But, and this is actually very important from the concept of being as fast as possible, we're bypassing the standard business processes in Campus Solutions in regards to admissions, in regards to student records, program and plan enrollment, term activation, class enrollment. All of those things do not exist in the continuing education world because a person buys a product. And with that, a transaction is born that identifies that the person wants to actually study a particular course. And with that, we are able to identify that the person is actually enrolled, unless, as mentioned, there is a business process that says that there are particular steps to do before that time. We are in Campus, so why not use Campus? We are utilizing pieces of standard functionality, and we are actually tying them together with a continuous education glue, I would like to say, whereby we are able to utilize these modules in a different way than you would normally actually expect to be doing. We're utilizing program enrollment to actually create our product catalog, so our offering of products. We are using program enrollment as well for study progress per student, and we are also using it to actually grade students. We're using Campus Community for personal information storage, as well as for the 3Cs for notification framework and other pieces of functionality that we might want to use at a person level, be it a service indicator, be it something to do with committees or anything else that we would like to use from Campus Community, we can. We're utilizing from Campus Community as well event management. So we are actually managing our product offerings through events, as you'll see in a moment as well, when we are going to demo all of this. And with that, we're able to actually manage both the offering of an actual product in time, but we're also actually managing, therefore, the enrollment of a person on that particular event and tracking of attendance on the event if necessary. Last but not least, as said, student financials, really important, of course, in the context of financial transactions, and also important in the context of text management. We have created a text management module in continuing education, which is actually really powerful and able to actually calculate tax regime measures that you may have if you have international students joining, if you have students joining from different states, or if you have courses that actually, or products that require taxing in a particular way or a particular form. Our tax management module is, in that sense, a lot more complex, let's say, powerful, sounds better, powerful than the Oracle delivered text management module, and is actually utilized by, for instance, a well-known business school in France that does a lot of education all over the world. Last but not least on this page, I would say easily extendable, very important in this context. We are building products for people that actually are extendable. They are absolutely configurable and flexible, as you will see, but there is always a capability for an institution or a necessity for an institution to be specific on what they want and how they want the system to work. So we've created a large amount of code hooks in the model whereby the institution itself, or we, in collaboration with the institution, can create specific code that is specific to the university and only actually is available and runs for those in that university. And with that, we're able to actually have a very configurable module, but also a module that can actually appoint itself and be used in the way that the institution really wants to use it. Your in-campus solutions, as said, so you were actually also able to do other types of things, reuse integrations, reuse self-service capabilities, make a standard relationship to a system like a CRM application, and all kinds of other things that we might want to do. It's continuing education. By nature, I would like to say this is a very broad subject, continuing education, as we've actually seen over the years. People use continuing education as a label for lots of types of education that doesn't fit their normal bachelor or normal undergraduate, graduate kind of education. But in essence, for us, continuing education is a broad scope and therefore has the need for broad technical, let me say it that way, technical capabilities as far as how we get data into the system. We have an application form attached to continuing education that you can utilize, and that actually allows people to enter information and then buy the product that they actually would like to buy. We have the ability to actually process files so that a company that actually has a group of people that are going to do a continuing education course can actually deliver an Excel file with a list of names and a list of email addresses, and with that manage the whole continuing education enrollment, because we will process the file. With the file, we're going to actually create people. We're going to create the event that needs to happen or the course that needs to be created. We will enroll the people on the course. We will maybe even actually send the people an email if we need to afterwards. So our file processing module is capable of managing particular actions that you would like to do with people in the context of continuing education through an import of an Excel file. Because a lot of people and a lot of institutions already have external systems, be it a website, be it a CRM system, be it another type of application that maybe gathers information about people with an interest into continuing education. We also have a web service integration. So if you have an external system like a website or a web shop or a CRM system that gathers information about students who are going to be doing a continuous education course at the university, you can push that data into our continuing education module within Campus Solutions through a web service. And last but not least, we can also, of course, enter a transaction manually in the system through an administrator that actually manages that. With that, we cover a lot of ground as it comes to being able to actually manage the information in different ways. Last slide on my slide deck before I actually go into the system and start to actually create with you a course and an event of that course. This slide actually is here to present the different ways in which people can actually interact with the system. And I would like to point at the fact that it doesn't matter how you actually get into the continuing education module within Campus Solutions. We will always actually take you through search, match, person staging, which means that we are always going to do a search match on your person record. If you're a person who wants to do an educational course at our institution through continuing ed, we're always going to actually validate that you are either an existing person in the system or you are new to us and need to be created as a new person. And of course, with search match also comes the possibility of suspending, so that we are able to actually validate by a human to actually see if you're a new person into us or if you're an existing person. So it doesn't matter how you get to us with your data on the fact that you would like to do a particular course with us. You are always going to go through search match and you're always going to be validated as being an individual that we already know about or not. And the lines on the right and on the left that you actually see at the bottom indicate that we are also able to actually push out product catalog data towards a website or towards a CRM system or another application that you may have that needs the information about what we are offering. Because we have a storefront, as you'll see, but we also encourage people to actually interact through their website or their CRM system with the people out there to say, okay, these are the courses that you can actually buy from our university. And once they have identified what they would like to do, they can then be brought to the storefront or they can be brought to the login page to actually start their learning. Hendricks, unless there are questions now already that I need to answer, I'm going to jump into the system.
I think we're good to go, Ernst.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Now, so let me sign on through the front end of PeopleSoft as we normally would do. And then we end up in our continuing education dashboard over here. So what I want to do today is actually take you through a journey that we would normally take as an administrator when we are creating a new course and a new event that we would like to actually sell afterwards. So in order to do that, we are going to start by creating a product. A product can start as a course in the course catalog, but it's not required. So I'm going to skip it today. And let's say the reason it's not required is because we don't consider courses to be the only thing we offer as products. We can offer anything as a product, as you'll see in a moment, but we can offer courses from the course catalog as products. So it's technically possible without any problem to have all your courses in the course catalog become products for people to buy through continuing education, but it's not required to have a course in the course catalog if it really isn't a course. If it's a 2-hour event, then it doesn't really need to be in the course catalog, does it? So if you're actually thinking of selling a piece of video, if you're selling 10 hours of coaching with a professor, those things are not courses. So we don't create courses in the course catalog unless they really are courses in the view of the institution. And that could mean overlap between continuing education and standard or traditional education, or it could simply be courses that are only for continuing ed. Now, let's add a new course here. So, or a new product, excuse me. And let me choose pre-recorded here, why not? So we have a type of product that we actually create, which is called pre-recorded. And as you would see, if you actually look at the list here, the list of academic items in this particular database is 46 types of items, which are all kinds of things. And that's because we are in program enrollment, and program enrollment allows us to define our own types of items that we would like to use in our academic item registry. And our academic item registry is the base for our product catalog. So we have created academic item types that are categories of products that we're offering. Categories like courses, categories like event, categories like pre-recorded videos, coaching, etc. So in this case, we're creating a pre-recorded video. Now, this pre-recorded piece of education has a title, of course, and may actually have a number of credits if we like to, and may also even lead to a degree or certificate if we like to. But all of those things is not required. It's a possibility. This is standard functionality. This is the standard academic item registry input screen that you can utilize to actually create your product with. Now, I'm just going to flip over here because otherwise it's going to be a very lengthy type action today. And I thought, what else to do if it actually is raining every day almost here in the Netherlands, than to actually think about Christmas. So I thought, you know what, we're going to create a course that actually is going to be about Christmas presents wrapping, and we're going to offer that in the months of October and November of this year. Now, to do all of that, we actually have a title, of course. We have a fantastic text here that we would like to actually add to our product and that we can also actually export to our external website. And we're going to add that to our overview here. I'm very quickly going to actually add some titles here so that we actually are able to make this a nice piece of information that we would like to share it with people. Let me do that first, and then add this one, and then add this one. and then that one. And of course, it doesn't have to be this long, but at least you can see that you have the ability within the academic item registry to create a long description that you can utilize later on an external website or actually on our storefront to indicate what we are going to be teaching and what we're going to be learning when you do this particular course. One thing to point out just as a comment here, we are in the academic item registry. We have the ability in here to actually create what we call rules that are going to be built in the rules engine, which is a standard piece of functionality in the system. And with the rules engine rules, we are able to define, for instance, a prerequisite or a co-requisite or a validation of the person that actually wants to enroll is actually somebody that we would like to see in this course for whatever reason. We can also do other types of things with rules. We can calculate discounts, for instance. We can also actually calculate the progression after the course has been done. And all of those things can be done by configuration through the front end in the rules engine to create these rules. And once they have been created, we can hook them up to a particular product or to a set of products. And then they are utilized or utilizable on PeopleSoft when we are doing different actions on these people. So our product has been created. Fantastic. So, and now if I grab this and click OK for a moment here, then I can actually, I should have gone straight to my next screen, but I can do that now. So my item is created. I can now actually jump over to a piece of information that I need to manage for continuing education. We are now in a screen that actually is not vanilla, and that actually allows us to define a number of elements that we require from continuing education point of view as extra information that we need to manage. So a set ID is always handy if you have multiple campuses that have different set IDs and you are managing student financials. So that's why the set ID is actually asked here. We have an instruction mode that we can also offer and that we can actually tell people about. So in this case, it would be internet. A very important checkbox over here that we'll talk about in a moment, the publish checkbox. But let me first actually get the images in. So I'm going to actually upload 2 images here. And this is Christmas presents. Right. So I have a Christmas present picture. Here we go. And that looks quite nice. And we can make that the default image that we would like to use. And then let's upload one more. And we'll use the same image for our upselling section that you'll see in a moment when we are going to be showing the storefront of the application. So now we've actually identified 2 different types of photographs that we actually would like to use externally, maybe on an external website, as well as on our storefront. We can identify what type of payment methods we allow for this particular product. So let's actually choose online and let's choose invoice here so that we actually have the ability for people to choose either to pay directly then or actually to pay by invoice. And this will control what actually happens on your application form as the ability for people to actually pay directly or pay later on. Now, very important, of course, what are the product fees that we actually are going to be paying for? We have a fee code of tuition here defined and a fee code for book fees, and we could define any type of fee codes. And fee codes have a nice ability that they actually have a default price. In this case, that might be a bit too expensive for this particular course, so let's make it 100. But in essence, we are able to actually define fee codes with a standard price, a linked item type for student financials, as well as linked waiver codes that we can utilize to actually allow students to do particular waivers or discounts when they are buying such a product. Last but not least, identifying in which type of element we're thinking here is important because that will actually allow us to link this particular course to other courses when it comes to trying to upsell a particular product to a person that is buying something else, and also allows people to search when they're actually looking for courses by these product tags. So with this, our product is now created. On we go to the next step, because now we've created this product, and this product could actually be there forever and could be publishable forever if I would actually make sure that I publish. The checkbox here is very important. As I said, if I don't check this checkbox, then nothing will happen, and I cannot actually schedule this particular product because it's not yet ready for publishing. This checkbox is therefore crucial to say, okay, I'm still working on creating this particular product. I'm not sure about the price yet, or I don't know yet how we are going to manage a number of things. Then you can define anything as long as the checkbox is not checked. There is not going to be a campus event possible to be created from this particular academic item. So
Ernst, we have a
please.
quick question. I apologize. This may not
No,
be
that's
the
fine.
right time to interrupt, but does campus have, do we have the ability to deal with grant support and certificates?
Certificates answer absolutely yes. When it comes to grants, the answer may be a bit more if, then, when, else. If you're thinking in traditional financial aid, as it actually exists in campus solutions, related to your, let's say, US-driven financial aid, I'm going to say it's going to be hard. When you think of financial aid and grants in the context of an individual who gets a grant from a particular scholarship fund, absolutely no problem at all. So, and the difference is this, or the complexity of traditional financial aid lies in the fact that in many cases we are looking at particular calculations around progression of students. We are looking at the number of credits that they're actually enrolled into and all those kinds of things more. And as we are not utilizing the class enrollment table and we're not utilizing the ability for a student to have a program and a plan, that part is hard. But when I think of financial aid from the point of view of Europe, where we actually have lots of people getting scholarships, but they are just, quote, quote, definitions of money given to a student because he actually is eligible for it, and we don't check how many credits and so on, it's absolutely possible without a doubt. Yes.
Thank you.
So, no problem at all. So, our product is ready to go because it's publishable, and that means that we can now actually utilize it to create an actual offered product in this case. So we are creating an event, and we can create as many events as we like for this particular product. Every event that we create has to have a start date at least, and may have an end date, because if we're offering something online, it could be forever active. But let's say that in this case, we actually identify that this particular, let's say, event version or event template will happen between, let's go for they need to be ready by Wednesday. Well, so between the 1st of October 2024 and the 18th of December 2024, we are actually offering this particular product. As mentioned, it's a product with an event linked to it, which actually makes it a scheduled product. We can schedule this once a year, twice a year, 10 times a year. We can schedule it concurrently. All those things are possible without any problem. They are all separate instances of the product being offered. And every one of them has its own event status, which is of course defined, labels that actually can be defined by yourself, but normally I would say go, no go, or tentative. Those kinds of things make sense in the context of an event. We have a status reason, which actually can identify that it's no longer possible anymore to come because there's no seats left, for instance, and that can be published out, of course, also towards the external website again. You can see the link here to the actual product that actually is there as the header, so to say. We can define an event manager, we can make some comments. Again, a beautiful checkbox here in the middle called publish, which will really release this event to the world and make it visible on the storefront within Campus Solutions, make it possible to be chosen, and also will probably be the trigger by which you would like this information to be sent to an external system if you want to. So, all of that being said, here is a page which actually I think is for many people very important, especially if you're thinking from the point of view of trying to offer a continuing education from courses that are also offered for traditional students within Campus Solutions. In this page, we are able to make a link between the product that we're selling, the product in this context, the product offering that we're selling, and one or more classes that actually exist for traditional students. So we're able to identify a particular career term and then a class number or multiple class numbers and map those to this event so that when somebody actually buys this product through continuing education, he's actually going to be following the same educational content as the people who actually enrolled through the class enrollment process into the classes. And we have the ability to say, okay, we would like to use the same class attributes, we would like to use the same class meeting pattern if we would like to, and we can even actually utilize the class requisites. I'm going to say that with a little bit of a echo in my voice because in the end, class requisites can be really complex and can actually in some cases be difficult to mimic from a continuing education point of view because we don't actually utilize the same class enrollment COBOL processes. But in essence, the idea behind it is to be able to say, okay, if there is a simple course on course mapping and you have to do mathematics A before you can do mathematics B or something like that, or you cannot do more courses than a number of courses per semester, those kinds of things are absolutely possible to be managed in here as well. Main focus and main purpose here is to say, okay, if we have classes that we offer to traditional students and we would like continuing education students to be following the same classes, we have that ability to map those two elements together. File attachments, absolutely fine, of course. Our fees are going to be pushed downwards from the product to the event where they are stored, and they have to be stored because in the end, we actually look at fees at the level of the event. So we're able to actually make a super price here and make it 50 if we wanted to, or we can leave it what it was at product level, but at least we're able to actually identify different prices, and we even are able to actually add extra fees if we want to. The same counts for attributes. We have the ability to enter extra attributes if we want to. Continuing education attributes there from the common attribute framework. And here they are again, our product tags as well. So with all of that, we are able to create the event. Now, if we want to, we can also actually create a meeting. So in case that we're actually really creating a offering that is going to meet in person, we're able to create meeting patterns. We are able to create meetings where we are going to actually meet in a particular room, in a particular location, which could be on campus, which could be externally, which could be completely different somewhere, and where we are going to define that there is going to be different resources needed, and think of wrapping paper and think of tables and scissors and all those kinds of things in this context. And we're going to be able to identify which professors or which people that are going to be teaching this particular course are actually going to be required to be available for those particular meetings. I'm saying all of this, but while I'm saying that, I'm also going to say, is it necessary to have this defined? No, it's not as such. It's handy if you actually have a product that actually has meetings. If you have something which doesn't have meetings, then there is no necessity for it. But in essence, most of your courses will either happen online, but still actually have a particular meeting date and meeting time, or will happen on campus or somewhere else. So let's create our first session in here.
But or it's while you're doing that,
Yeah, please.
there's another question that I think you just answered, and it's just CY2 events, campus events, right to the PS campus event and PS event meeting tables.
Answer is yes. Yes, you are looking, this whole screen that you're looking at over here is standard. This is nothing that we have done, anything. So this is purely and completely the standard functionality within Campus Solutions. The numbers that you're seeing over here are the campus event numbers that you would actually also see if you would create other types of events. We have just extended the campus event component by creating our own component, so we don't actually get into clashes with future bundles. But apart from that, everything else actually is standard. Be a little bit less enthusiastic. So in that sense, yes, all standard, unless you're actually looking for particular things like the mapping towards the classes, that's ours. But apart from that, it actually is standard. So we've created an event meeting, we have created a course, so we're able to actually launch this course. Did I actually launch this course? That's a good question. Just double check. It really won't appear if I actually don't click that button. So, right, so our product now is ready to be published. Now, normally speaking, I would say when I click save on the publish, I would actually send a web service message to a website, for instance, or a CRM system, and from that moment onwards, it is actually available. We are in our demo system, so I don't have that web service. I do have the web service technically, I just don't have it connected to our own CY2 website, but we did actually create a CY2 website page to give you an intent of how we actually see an external meeting or an external system actually interacting with Campus Solutions on our end. So you're looking at our demo page for CY2 University, where we are able to actually offer our products that we would like to actually offer people. So we're thinking here that you're going to pull the information from your product catalog onto an external website page where people can actually browse through the different areas that they would like to actually look at. And then if they want to actually apply for a particular course and buy. So let's see that I'm actually interested in this eye for photography here that is actually available, and that actually starts on the 5th of September 2024. I actually can read about it, and of course the information that we read over here is coming from the information that we're actually sending out from our own product catalog that we actually created earlier. We can actually see some other things that we can do, but we also have the ability to enroll from this page. And when we enroll, we are actually passed onwards to Campus Solutions. I'm going to do one thing, guys, because otherwise I am not sure what is going to happen. What's now going to happen is actually it's not loading, but of course it worked the moment that I didn't click on it anymore. Excuse me. It's going to go there one more time. So we go from here and we actually enroll. And when we enroll, we are actually going to be in Campus Solutions. So this page that we're actually on here is already Campus Solutions. We are now on the public piece of Campus Solutions, where we can actually see that there is a particular course that we just actually were interested in, and we can add that to our cart. And we can also check if there are other elements that we would like to actually enroll into. And hey, here we go. There's our Christmas presents wrapping cart we just actually defined, and we can add that to our cart as well if we want to. So now we have two products that we actually are going to buy, and we would like to now actually proceed to checkout to be able to start to learn these particular elements. So we're proceeding to checkout, and that means that we're going to be on the login page where we are actually going to be asked either do you want to create an account? Do you actually want to log in? or do you simply want to check out as a guest, because in this case it's not necessary to be uh, to identify yourself yet. If you check out as a guest, for those of you who are technical, there is still going to be a user account created for you, but the user won't know which user account it is and probably doesn't care about it anyway. But the intent is that we create user accounts for these people, and once they are actually completely finalized and have actually done the order that they would like to do, we can remove the accounts, or we can actually shut down the accounts again because they're not actually necessary anymore. But you are at this moment in time a real user by yourself and no longer a guest user. So let's assume that we are going to enroll, and we're going to be filling in some quick details here. Sorry for people who actually see too many people entering data always. So let's go for the Netherlands. Who cares? That's fine. Go for, oops. Yes, number 3. And we can enter a phone number, we can enter an email address. Let's actually at least enter an email address, because otherwise it's never going to work, of course. And then on other pages, as you can see, I've actually added the page here for work experience. You can add a lot of pages in this particular form if you like to. But that, of course, depends on the type of products that people are buying. So behind this framework is a template-based approach that says, okay, based on the product that you're buying, what is the amount of data that we require from you to be able to actually buy this product? And with that, we are able to actually show more or less pages and show more or less fields per page. And of course, we also have the ability to say, okay, fields are not required or fields are required, and through that actually manage what we actually ask people to fill in. Important, as I would say beforehand already, important the fees. So at fee level, we are able to say, okay, we have a particular discount code, and if automatic discounts should be applied based on the fact that we know who the person is, then we can actually, for instance, apply an alumni fee if somebody enters an email address that we know, or if somebody actually signs in with a user that we know, then we can actually apply automatic discounts. We can also have a discount code whereby somebody can actually enter a code and then calculate the discount, which will then actually, of course, end up here as a discount on the overview. Important as well is who is paying the fees. So are you paying it yourself, or are other people paying it for you? Is another person paying? Is another company paying? Are multiple people paying? How is the payment of what you're going to do going to be done managed? Now, in the case of me, myself, it is easy. We only have a question, okay, would you like to use the same billing address as another one or not? And yeah, let's say yes for this time. Okay, and now we know that we're going to be paying 650. Do I want to save the address? No, thank you, Google. And with this, we have actually done everything we need to do on this page, because we've indicated who is paying and how much money we're going to be paying. That leads us to the last page where we actually can finalize the transaction. As I mentioned earlier, based on the configuration, we have the option to say, okay, you can only pay online, or you can also pay by bank, or you can even actually pay by bank, but then in installments. So different options leading to different buttons and areas on this page that are visible. I don't have a third-party payment provider connected to this website, but if you would look at some of the institutions that we work with for our application form framework, you'll know that it's a fairly normal circumstance to say, okay, you're in a particular application form, you have to pay an application fee, you click on Pay Now, you go to Ogone, You go to CyberSource, not yeah, CyberSource also possible. You go to TouchNet, I would like to say, or Nelnet or whatever. You pay, and then you come back here to actually do the finalization of the transaction. In the case that you actually want to pay by bank, you can indicate I want to pay by bank, and that will be a trigger for the system to say, okay, I know that I need to actually send an invoice to this person, and we are indicating here as well that your enrollment will not be finalized before the payment is received. So you're going to be in our system with a transaction, but this transaction will not be finalized from the enrollment point of view. You may actually have reserved a seat. If you do not pay in time, your seat will be taken by somebody else if there is a space. Again, this is configuration based on what you saw earlier, the courses that we are creating or the products that we're creating. So you are in full control over which options you actually give people in the context of what they're buying.
Ernst,
Finalized
we have a,
transaction,
no,
please.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no,
After
I was
you're
just going to
done,
say, yeah.
no, sorry, and this kind of rolling back a little bit. Is there a class search function? And the comment is that this institution offers hundreds of
Yeah,
continuing ed courses per semester with thousands of scheduling options. So
we,
how to understand how
how does that
students,
work? Yeah,
yes,
so we have already taken a hard in multiple senses. We've taken a hard look already at the Elasticsearch capabilities that Oracle delivers on purpose and are in the process of building our own class search option in our storefront. Uh, let's say it's not literally technically the same functionality as the class search that Oracle delivers for students that are enrolling in classes, but it is based on the same technology with the same kind of capability of filtering information once you have searched and drilling down into the actual product or products that you would like to buy. The reason that it's not yet there is because the customers that we have currently are managing searching on their external websites. So they are letting people search completely outside of the context of campus solutions, and only when they've made the choice they want to make, they are actually passed over to campus. But I completely understand the request. I think it would be super cool as a addition to the storefront. And it's, as I said, something that we are not just actually looking at from a long-term roadmap perspective, but are actually actively working on a technology level as we speak. So next time, I hope I can actually show you the new class search capability or the new product search capability in the storefront.
would you say, and this is my question, following on to that, that a new continuing ed customer in the U.S., that's something that we would commit to deliver, obviously based upon whatever timing is in when it comes out of development?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's not you don't have to live in the US for this, for to me to make this promise, but in essence, the answer is yes. It's absolutely on the high end of the list of things that we want to do. So in that sense, absolutely. Yeah. No, I said it's. I can see the complexity, or I can see the necessity of a institution having a search
Sure.
capability if you actually have lots of courses.
No, another
So,
question: is
okay,
there address
that's fine.
verification?
No, there is no address verification. And that is actually nothing more or less than we are in campus solutions. And well, let me say then differently. If you have address validation logic in campus solutions already in place, then the answer is yes, there is, because then we can actually tap into that. But we don't have address validation software ourselves. So we don't actually have those capabilities. But again, you are in campus solutions, so it will depend on what capabilities do you actually have already. And if those capabilities actually give you the ability to do that, then we can actually, of course, tap into those. While answering the question, I actually went into a pivot grid here, as you could see, where we actually have an overview of the transactions that have come in and the different statuses that they're actually in. And I searched for for the transactions that are being done today, which is in total a number of 9 here. And as we can see here, there are 2 products bought by this person over here, which have now actually led to the creation of a transaction for this particular person. So just because we can, and just because I wanted to explain this in one detail here, in this little detail here, we have a transaction page. This is a staging area in the system, like you also have staging areas for AWS if you're doing admissions in Campus Solutions. So the staging area allows us to store people as temporary IDs, validate if they are actually existing people or new people, and then pass them onwards once we have validated if they are either a new ID or if they are an existing ID. And here is also where they land if they actually are suspended, because we are unsure if they are new or not. And the total of the transaction is actually in here, including also everybody that actually pays for the education. So in case that there are multiple people paying, in case of the fact that there are multiple companies and persons paying together, we can manage all of the search matching for organizations as well as the search matching for constituents for both the person who is enrolling himself or herself as well as the people who are going to be paying for this education, which in this case is the person itself. So on we go from transaction to the actual person transaction, because that is where we actually wanted to end up. This is the heart of the system when it comes to the front end of the model. This is where we actually manage the transaction itself. Here is where we can see how much money has been paid. Well, at the moment, 0 has been paid because otherwise the balance would be 0. But here is actually the ability to say, okay, we actually have this transaction. This is the amount of money. How are we going to pay? Are there any external reference numbers that actually need to be stored from an external website, for instance? Do we have any notes that you would like to create? There's an overarching transaction status, which has logic behind the different statuses to be able to actually, for instance, create a enrollment record in the academic progress tracker of a student when a transaction is posted or when it's completed. We have the ability for those kinds of statuses. We can define more, we can define less, and we have the ability per status to put logic in place that is configurable by the institution to say, okay, what is going to happen next, as a sort of a workflow model that actually has the ability to update information in other places in the system, as well as to actually track the person through the different stages. On the first page here, we can see the enrollments. So we can see what the person has actually bought, and we can see here that the event enrollment status is still conditional because of the fact that the person hasn't paid yet. And from here, we can actually either go straight to the event attendance, where we can actually see what is going on and if this person is going to be attending or not. And here you can see that we actually have the status for the attendee here. And we can also actually identify that the person actually has an academic progress tracker once he has actually paid. This is at least how most people manage it. You are in here as a transaction until you've actually paid. Once you paid in full, we are going to store your purchase in your personal academic progress tracker, which actually leads to a list of elements or products that you have actually bought over time and actually studied. Just a few words on this part here. This is the payment part. Here we can actually charge a person for the money that they're actually supposed to actually give us. So we actually have the ability here to say, okay, we would like to post a particular charge for this person. And when we post this particular charge, we are going to be posting it into a student account that is now being created for this particular person. So now we can actually see that the person has actually gotten an academic, sorry, not an academic account, a customer account, excuse me, a customer account that actually holds the money that he actually has to pay. And from here, we can also actually bill the person. So we can now actually generate an invoice if we like, and we can also actually print the invoice afterwards if we want to, which is all utilizing the standard functionality in the system as far as creating invoices and billing and printing the invoices at the back end actually utilizes the standard functionality. So if administrators are managing both continuing education as well as other types of education from a student financials point of view, for instance, they won't be lost. They will still know where everything is, because actually when you would look up in the backend, you would see that the transactions are also visible through the standard application screens. It's just that this is a lot simpler for people to manage. You post a transaction, you actually indicate that you would like to generate an invoice, you print the invoice from the same screen, you never have to go anywhere else, and you can actually print out the invoice or send the invoice by email, and on you go. So with all of this in place, we are now actually waiting for payment from Samantha. But if we actually go back for a second here and go for, see, go for this one here. So here's a transaction that actually is completed. So this particular transaction has been completed by me today. And you can see here that there is actually a charge here, which has been posted, which has been billed, which has been paid afterwards. And there is a payment in this here as well that indicates that the payment actually was done for the charge. Somebody pays by credit card, you'll actually see a payment and a charge coming in, at least depending on your configuration. If you want to, you can actually indicate that both the charge and the payment have been done already, so that the balance actually is zero. Because the balance is zero, we actually have an enrollment record for this particular person. So now we can actually jump over to the academic progress tracker, where we can see that this particular person has bought photography for beginners, and that is a course that he is going to study, or she is going to study. In here, I can also see where I actually started from at the very beginning, our list of courses that are going to be offered for people. So here we have a continuing education offering tree with courses that we actually are able to offer as such. And in here is also the photography for beginners, which is the course that this person has bought. Now, if you have hundreds of courses or even thousands of courses, you will probably not end up with one tree, but you'll probably end up with a tree per program, a tree per area of study, a tree of particular, let's say, time periods in the year, depending on how you want to offer this education to people. In the end, it doesn't matter. In the sense, for us, technically speaking, we can actually add all the different elements from the different trees to the same records of the student. But from the point of view of management of information, as well as actually external integration, it could be easier to have multiple trees for people. On this individual piece, individual overview, we actually see that she's done one course. Should she do another course and pay for it, then we are easily able to say, okay, technically, of course, that actually normally happens by default by the backend. We can actually add another course that she is going to do. And if you would drill down into the details of that course, you're actually in maybe not the most beautiful screen in the world, which is why we're actually, like many other people in the world, creating simpler screens for these kinds of information. But in essence, what you're looking at is a information about photography for beginners, which is all about when are you studying this? Did you actually satisfy it, yes or no? What is your result that you are going to get on this? Is there one result type or are there multiple result types? In this case, there's a result type which could end up in a 100-point scale, or could end up in a alphanumeric grading basis scale that we can actually utilize to give somebody a grade if we want to. So all of the standard normal information that we would store for people that actually are doing a traditional course can also be stored for people doing a continuing education course. If it's necessary, it's a completely different story, of course. If we actually feel that this pre-recorded video is only something that we would like to track for purposes of education, or maybe to actually take a CRM action afterwards and tell this person that if she buys one more interesting photography for beginning course, photography course, that she will get a discount or something like that. All that kind of information can be grabbed from the screen, because we're actually looking at a individual person buying individual courses. How are we on time, Hendrix? We are actually quite good. Okay, so.
Yeah, we're good, Ernst.
Okay,
Thank you.
perfect. So, no, absolutely. So, um, yes, I think I'm good. So, let me take you to a bit of more beautiful screens with more setup. So, I promised last time, and I promise I won't actually explain every single piece here because then we'll be actually here until tomorrow morning. But the intent of our continuing education solution in general, as said, is be configurable. So we have a multiple frameworks together working to get continuing education as flexible as possible. We have the ability to actually define different configurations. So, and a configuration in this case means a set of screens where we are able to identify which fields are going to be shown on that page and which fields are required and what are the labels for those fields and all those kinds of things more. So if we would go, for instance, to our continuing education contact details, which is in our form, which actually has the page title continuing contact details, you can see that we have a number of fields on that page and that we have actually unchecked the box for address type, address line 4, which we have in the database. We're just not showing it today. And we also have lots of other fields that we actually would like to then offer a person to either see or not see on that page. And not just actually see or not see, also is the field required, yes or no? Is there a label that you would like to change? Is there a help text that you would like to add so that actually if the person hovers over a field, there is a help text? Would you like placeholder text in the place there? Or would you also like to enter ARIA attributes, which are really crucial in the context of accessibility? We've done a lot on accessibility on these products, but there's always a possibility to do more or to do other things. So you have the ability within the framework to actually have your own attributes defined for every field on every page that you have in your setup. And this is both the transaction pages, as well as the login page, as well as the storefront, as well as the application form pages that you actually may have. So all of that is defined by a particular what we call default or a template ID, which you can have as many of as you like. And your product or your category of products will be linked to a particular template to identify what template is relevant. So which fields should be shown, required, and so on and so on. Let me go back for here for 1 second. So apart from this very technical piece, which I'm going to just actually skip for a moment if you don't mind, but because it's only really back end, we have the ability, and this comes down again to configurability and extendability. Everything that we do as far as look and feel is based on style sheets. You're looking, everything that you looked at, storefront, login page, application forms, transaction component, all of that is fluid. And with fluid capabilities comes the ability to actually have your own style sheets. So if you want, you can actually define your own style sheets or let us actually amend style sheets for you specifically to change the color, to change the logos, to change the text fonts, to change the size of the fonts, to completely change the page if you wanted to. And with that, actually give your own, let's say, content to the pages that are actually visible for users in the system. Same counts for JavaScript, same counts for notifications that you may want to send at particular trigger points when there is something happening and somebody creates a new user or actually gets logged out as a user or actually does a transaction order. All of those triggers could actually lead to a notification, and then we allow you to define what notification should be sent when. Everything comes with its own message catalog, which is actually also, like you saw earlier in the air registry, rich text editable, so you actually can define your own texts for your storefront, your labels, your page titles, and so on. And then we have a lot of other configuration options available that allow you to actually model the product as you would like it to be modeled. How are you managing your files? What type of events can people actually define? what is actually the relationship between the URL that people are utilizing to get to your storefront and the template that we're using there. What type of personal data do we actually manage? What type of addresses? How are we going to load all of that in? As well as actually what type of values do we have for your air structure, for your what have we got as far as different types of items that you may use within your continuing education, as well as how are we going to manage your installation values for all kinds of financial things around transactions. These are setup defaults, installation values as a lot of sort of a last resort to be able to actually grab a value if nothing else is available in the transaction itself. Event mapping statuses as said, and here also the ability to identify for a particular transaction status, be it built, be it completed, be it created, to have an application class actually trigger a particular action when you are in that particular status. Now, all of this runs on a model which we call the business transaction model. Remember, perhaps if you still do, that we actually said earlier that we have application forms as well as web services, as well as file processing, as well as manual entry. All of those kinds of things are able to get data into our continuing education model. It doesn't matter technically how you get to us, because we're always utilizing the same code line. We're always using the same business logic, because the business logic that we actually utilize to create a transaction, to complete a transaction, to do a payment, to actually get information in, to create a new event, to create a new course, all those things are all managed through what we call business transactions. And those business transactions identify what is going to happen in the system and what data are we actually utilizing for it. And that business transaction model allows us to actually, for instance, create a person, whereby we actually identify which fields are able to be used to create a person. And we have a piece of logic that is behind the scenes creating the person. And it doesn't matter if this person is created through a web service call that comes in through our API, or if it actually is in the file processor, or if it is through the application form, or if somebody actually would enter information directly into the system about the person. In all cases, we are creating the person in the same way with the same logic. And that actually enables us to be sure that if a transaction is successful, it will actually be on the basis of the same code line and the same business transaction logic everywhere that we go and any way that we actually want to use this. And the business transaction comes with conversion mapping, comes with the ability to configure different entities, comes with the ability to define particular file templates that we might actually want to use to, for instance, upload a grade, or to create a person and actually create an event for that person and then enroll the event person on the event. All of those things can actually be defined in template mappings, which we do then actually add into a template. In the case of file processing, we actually identify what our Excel sheet looks like, what we actually are going to use to create this information. If we're thinking web services, if we're thinking application form, all of this is of course not necessary to be configured by you, because it's all been pre-configured by us. But in the context of Excel sheets, you never know what they look like when they get to you. So we have a page where you can define your own Excel sheet format, and with that define that this Excel sheet that you're going to be loading will, in this context, for instance, be creating a person and creating an event and enrolling the person on the event. Product tags are product tags. You're going to trust me that they're actually in there and that they actually have setup. I wanted to actually say something about the fee codes, because that was actually an important part from a financials point of view. Here in the fee codes, we are actually defining the fee default, in this case, a fixed price of 1,000. But more importantly, we are actually identifying which item type to use if somebody gets charged with this particular fee code. So with that, we are actually hiding, to an extent, the complexity of student financials having to choose which item type it is that you would like to use this time around. No, all you have to do is actually choose a fee code. And in many cases, there will be a number of fee codes with different prices or with different fee types, for instance, or a different product ID externally that will lead to the same item type. So we are able to actually mask the student financials real data behind the scenes and create particular fee codes that are easier for people to understand and to utilize within the product creation that they do. And as you can see, with the fee codes come the waiver codes, and the waiver codes are then mapped to either real waivers in the system or are actually linked to rules or application classes. We do not utilize the financials COBOLs for waivers because those are normally mapped to the um, student financials tuition calculation COBOL, sorry. And we don't do tuition calculation through the COBOL. So we have our own either rules engine rules that you can actually utilize to actually get your, there's nothing in here, that's very handy. Rules engine rules that we actually can create to create your waiver with, or we can just have an application class method that actually is going to be creating your waiver and actually be calculating it for you. Is your waiver taxable? Is tax included in the amount, yes or no? All things which are important when you are doing a waiver and you have products that are taxed by default or not. And the tax calculation is normally done, as mentioned, automatically when a transaction is created to be sure that we know who somebody is. And that once we know who somebody is and what he actually bought. And just, no, that's not the one I wanted to use. I wanted to go for that one, I think. That looks a lot more like it. So our VAT rules, as they're called, or our tax rules, are pretty substantial. As you can see, they actually have the ability to look at a large amount of pieces of information about the person to identify which VAT or tax amount is applicable for somebody that actually complies to these rules. And we don't have one rule, of course, we have a number of rules so that the different groups of people that actually are studying can be calculated the right tax amount where that is necessary. Now, just to go back to my page over here, there was one thing I wanted to show, but I'm not sure I know what I wanted to talk about. Where did I want to go back to? Maybe nowhere. No, I think, let's say from here onwards, no, I'm sorry, I was actually just thinking like, is there something I would like to actually show extra? But the thing is, from here onwards, if we do, of course, there's more setup in the system, but then we are looking at the vanilla 3Cs. We are looking at vanilla notification framework. We are looking at vanilla student financials. We are looking at vanilla course catalog. We are looking at everything else that we showed earlier in the system that actually is available and that we are utilizing, but those are the standard screens. So what you saw just now are the features that we created as setup to actually enable us to use the system as a whole in a different way. But we are still actually utilizing where that is relevant and where it is possible and where it is actually pleasant. We are still utilizing the standard functionality to actually do the things we have to do. We're just actually termless, and we are admissionless, and we are student recordless, and we are enrollmentless, so to say, because we don't need those pieces of information to be able to actually get somebody on a 2-hour event that he actually pays $10 for instance. So
I think we're coming up to the end, right? Right, Ernst?
sorry, yes, I am, yes.
Good. If you please, if you have more.
No. I'd say I think this is where we stand today, and I can say a few words perhaps on a roadmap or at least on a a list of things that we're working on and that we are literally, let's say that there are application designer objects for, but they are just not actually demoable yet. We are working on a few things which are very crucial, I would say. A self-service capability for students to actually view more information online themselves. And also with that, the capability for students who are both traditional students as well as continuing education students to see information gathered in one place for them. There is a ongoing pursuit to actually simplify the creation of a product by means of an activity guide that actually will in itself have a lot of template capabilities to make the life of an administrator simpler when creating a new course, creating a new product, creating a new event, and publishing that so that it will become even simpler than it is today to actually create a product. And also, um, we are, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, we are actually looking at creating a search capability for the storefront so that you can actually have a class search like capability in the storefront to actually have people search for courses or products there if you want. Those are the three most imminent things on the list of things that we're working on right now to actually, let's say, further enhance the capabilities of the system that we have. And on the question, why haven't you built it already, Ernst? Well, because we were building other things, because the clients that we had focused on other things. But as we are actually increasing the number of people who have interest, we are also hearing different elements that people would like to add. So we're really working hard on getting those in as quickly as possible.
Thanks, Ernst.
Okay.
We're coming down to the bottom of the hour. Thank you all. Those that are still on board, we absolutely appreciate your interest. If you've got any questions or need information, please feel free to reach out to us. And you'll certainly hear back from us in the next couple of days with a link to the recording and also answers to the questions that were asked. Really appreciated everybody's time. Have a great rest of the week. Thanks very much. Thank you, Ernst.
Thank you as well, Hendricks, and thank you all for listening.
Ciao.